Welcome back to the Acceptable Casualties. Today we have a 1,500-point battle report between Strelkovy and Panzerkompanie. We're going to be doing Fighting Withdrawal. We'll be back in 1 second to go over the list for the Soviets and the Germans. So here we have our 1,500 points of Soviet Strelkovy Battalion. Down here we have our 1IC, 2IC, and Battalion Commissar. We have two identical Strelkovy mobs with Commissar, the Maxim machine gun. Both have a 45mm cannon attached to them and one flamer, and they are full companies. So that's 21 infantry bases and the SMGs upgraded for the 3rd Rifle platoons. Over here we have the Katyushas, the 31Ms with double crews, and the Observer. And in the back over there, we decided to go the ISU 122s for their anti-tank. So overall, this is, I think, 1495, so we're 5 points under. But that's our Strelkovy Battalion, so we'll be right back with the German list. So here we have our 1,500 points of Panzerkompanie, starting with the 1IC and 2IC in Panzer IV-Hs. Down here we have 3 Stugs, 3 Panzer IV-Hs, 1 King Tiger. Then we have 2 infantry platoons. It's one upgraded Vin to the, one has a Faust, right? Okay, and then over here we have Nebelwerfers with the Observer, and then we have 2 quad flak half tracks. Vin, what'd you get for Tiger Race for that King Tiger over there?
I rolled a 2, so it's just, no, I'm sorry, I rolled a 1, so it's just a 2-up on Stormtrooper moves.
Okay, so yeah, that's what we have here for 1,500 for Panzerkompanie, so we'll be back with deployment in 1 second. So we are back here for the deployment phase. I'll go over the Soviets first. So up top, we decided to tuck our Katyushas back into the corner over there, just give support fire for this side of the table. We strung out both of these Strelkovy mobs a little bit aggressively in the front, just so we can have some room to retreat if we lose in close combat and still contest those objectives. So that went all the way across the whole line right there, as you can see. We decided to keep the ISU 122s in ambush, so when we get an opportunity for them to jump out, we're going to hopefully get some decent dice. Down here for the Germans, they spread out their attack line going pretty much the whole length of the table. We'll start down here on this end. On this flank, they went with the, what the hell's the name of this infantry again, Vin?
Walkir.
The Walkir infantry with their 1IC for the Panzer right there. The King Tiger right here going down the street right there. And then you got their Nebelwerfers, squad of Stugs, another platoon of Walkir. Then you got the flak tracks. And then on this side, you got the Observer for the Nebelwerfers and 4 of the Panzer IV-Hs. One of those is the 2IC. So this is how deployment looks. Looks like we got 2 pretty huge battle lines strung across the table right here. So come back with us in a second for the top of German turn 1. So we are back for top of German turn 1. Movement phase, pretty much the entire line ended up pushing up except for the Nebelwerfers. Shooting phase, the Panzer IVs, they ended up split firing 2 shots into the Katyushas and missed both shots, and then they fired a couple shots into these guys, but we made all the saves for machine guns, right, Vin?
Yeah.
The rifle teams fired a couple shots, then they did their stormtrooper move and moved up. These guys just actually were out of range, so they weren't able to fire off at anything. The Stugs moved to the top of the hill. They fired a couple rounds down into this blob over on this side, but weren't able to do any wounds. Nebelwerfers, when they fired, they just smoked out one of the observers over there for the Katyushas. Down here, the King Tiger moved up, fired a shot and missed. And then the 1IC ended up moving up. He fired a shot, and he was able to pinpoint that 45mm in there. I failed my 3-up save, and then Vin ended up punching through on that firepower, so he was able to peel him off, being the only casualty of the round. So that's all that happened here for the top of turn 1. We'll be back in a second for bottom Soviets turn 1. So we are back for bottom of Soviets turn 1. In the movement phase, everybody pretty much stayed still except for our Katyushas in the corner. We decided to play a little cat and mouse and move them up along the other side of that forest over there to get them out of firing line of sight from these panzers. Shooting phase, We really didn't do too much. We just we ended up firing out of our foxholes because, well, I got bored. So we fired the 45 millimeter down here at the half tracks. We had one hit, and Vin ended up making the save, so nothing happened there. We opened up some of the rifle teams and the Maxim over here. We were able to pin these guys, and when we kill one baseman, two bases out of this squad. As we peeled around over to here, we ended up firing the Maxim that was right there and a couple of the rifle teams in some of the infantry that was over here. We ended up peeling off another two bases there. We ended up holding our ambush a little bit longer, just waiting for the right time to pop that out. So we're going to be back here at the top of turn 2 for the Germans, see what happens. So we are back for top 2 Germans. As far as movement phase goes, not too much movement. The half tracks moved up the street a little bit. These guys stayed pinned, so they couldn't go anywhere. Over on the flank over here, the Panzer IVs made a push over some of the hedges. One of the guys got bogged down. Back over here, the Stug stayed on the hill. Nebelwerfers didn't move. On this side, the King Tiger and the 1IC just decided to park and do some shooting. These guys tried to dig in. They weren't able to, so they ended up just moving in their Stormtrooper move. For the shooting phase, nobody hit anything on this side at all. I think the 1IC ended up firing a shot. He was able to zone in on that Maxim over there, but he failed his firepower to dig him out, so he lives to fight another day. On this side, the Stugs completely biffed on everything except for one, and I made my save. Over here, the fire between that rifle platoon, the half tracks, and the Panzer IVs all dumping machine gun fire in over there. I think they killed one base.
Yeah.
Yes, one base, and they were able to pin the unit. And then the Nebelwerfers fired a bombardment up into the Katyushas over here. They were able to kill the commander and pin the unit. We made one save on one of the Katyushas to kind of hang in there. So we'll be back at the bottom of turn 2 and see what the Soviets are going to do with this giant wall of German armor staring them down. So I'll be back in a flash. So we are back for bottom of turn 2 for the Soviets. As far as movement goes, we didn't really move anybody, still kind of stayed dug in. We were able to unpin this company right here, and we failed to unpin the Katyushas in the back, so they're just kind of sitting there hanging out, not doing much. As shooting goes, we opened up with these guys, and we were able to do enough of casualties down here to do a morale test for that one rifle platoon, and they ended up breaking. We also fired a bunch of shots from that 45 millimeter into the half tracks right here. We hit on 2 of them. Vin missed both of the saves, but we failed both firepowers, so that wasn't that good. Back over here on this side with some of the rifle squads over there and that Maxim machine gun, we were able to just peel off a whole bunch of guys from this platoon as well. They have their one sergeant left right there. The unit's pinned. They passed their morale, but they got last man standing starting next turn. So we'll see how that plays out. That's pretty much all that happened here for the Soviets. We're waiting to see what's going to happen here with this German armor. Are they going to push anytime soon, or are we just going to sit in our foxholes and just shoot at each other all day? So we'll be back for top of turn 3 Germans. So we are back for top of turn 3 for the Germans. Overall, pretty good turn for these guys. Movement over here, these guys stayed static. 1IC made a move on his Stormtrooper. Nebelwerfer stayed in the back. The Stugs pushed ahead and fired, and then worked their way into that line in close combat. Did a couple of casualties, and I just decided to do a strategic withdrawal and maybe try to lure them in, see what else I can do next turn. Over here on this side, half tracks fired a bunch of shots in there. I don't think they were able to peel anybody off. Nebelwerfers also fired a bombardment in there. I think they killed one guy and pinned the unit. The heroes of this round for the Germans were definitely the Panzer IVs. They fired a bunch of shots in there, ended up going in for the assault. I think they peeled off like 8 or 9 guys. It was 10? Okay, so it was 10 guys. At that point, like I said, I didn't have a chance to bail any of those tanks. They were just making their saves left and right. So I figured I'd just cut my losses and fall back and live to fight another day, hopefully. So that's how it looked like for German top 3. We'll be back in a second for Soviets bottom 3. Maybe it might be time to pop that ambush. I don't know. We'll wait and see. You're back for bottom of turn 3 for the Soviets. It was an all right turn. So for the movement phase, we were able to unpin and dig in this platoon over here, just waiting for that next Panzer assault to come on through. We did pop the ambush in the back for those 122s, and they fired over here and were able to blow up one of the Stugs, and then of course we rolled a 1 on the firepower check, so we were able to bail out the other one. These guys over here failed to unpin, failed to dig in. They pretty much just failed in everything. They fired a couple shots down here at this last guy, and he's still dodging bullets, working his way up the field. So that's what they're looking at right now. Like I said, Soviets still feeling pretty good, but there's a lot of game left. So we're gonna go back to the top of turn 4 for the Germans and see what's gonna happen. So we are back for top of turn 4 Germans, and the grind continues. Movement, Panzers started to slowly make their push up there, pushing that Strelkovy company back. Same thing with these Stugs. They just pushed up just to try to get a better shot on those ISU 122s. And over here, the Tiger and the 1IC ended up moving up as well. So shooting and assaults, they just dumped a couple rounds into those guys and killed 2 guys in close combat. They just pushed the line back. Not enough to make a motivation check, but we're getting close. Over here, like I said, the Stugs just moved up and fired some shots into those 122s. Back here, the Nebelwerfers, they fired a bombardment over here. I don't think did they kill anybody?
They got 1.
They got 1. Okay, so they were able to get 1. And then the Panzers fired, 3 of them fired a couple shots into here, combined with the half tracks. I think they were able to kill 1 guy in the shooting phase. And then they assaulted and were able to grind out, I think, like 2 more, wasn't it? Right, 2 more. And then the 1 Panzer IV right here, before they did their stormtrooper moves, fired a shot in the Katyushas, but ended up missing. So overall, pretty good turn here for the Germans. Like, they're starting to whittle down those Soviet numbers, and we just got to see if we can return the favor this turn and maybe peel a couple of the German units off the table. So we'll be back in a second for Soviets bottom 4. So we are back for the bottom of turn 4 for the Soviets. It was a pretty good turn. Could have been a little bit better. For the movement phase, we pretty much stayed parked with the ISU 122s. And then with both of our infantry platoons, we decided to be aggressive and push instead of digging in. Oh, before I forget too, we had to pull out the Katyushas for the withdrawal rule, so they ended up coming off the table. But back to what we were doing here. So for the shooting phase, we had those 122s fire into the Stugs, and of course, we had 3 shots with the volley fire, and we missed on 5 of them. And then the one we hit, we rolled a 1. So we were only able to bail them, not able to blow them up. So maybe we can stick around for 1 more turn and do a little more damage that way. As far as the assaults go on this side, we came out of the foxholes. We had our flamethrower left in there, and then we also had that 45 millimeter. 45 millimeter really didn't do anything. And the flamethrower, we had 3 hits, but we couldn't get any of the firepowers to bail any of the tanks. So after that, we decided to assault, and we kind of got ground up right there. We weren't able to take anybody out again. So we fell back, we're pinned, but we passed our motivation to stay on the field. So we're going to live to fight at least another turn. Down here, those SMGs, they assaulted and also shot with the Maxim back there. We were able to blow up one of the half tracks and assault the other one and take it out in close combat. So we were able to wipe out that platoon. Like I said, the Stugs over here, 1 got bailed, and then over here we were able Vin mistook another base for the Flamer base, so that worked out in my favor. We pushed up the Flamer. We were able to torch the King Tiger, and then we were able to assault it and capture it in close combat. So overall, pretty good turn. We're going to go to the top of turn 5. Vin has to do a last man standing down here, and then we'll see how that goes after that. But turn 5 right now coming up for the Germans. Got to make that push, last hurrah. So we'll be back in a second. So we are back for the top of turn 5 for the Germans. Pretty decent turn for those guys overall. Movement, Panzers kind of just started to just turn their turrets. They really didn't move anywhere. On this side, the 1IC, he stayed parked there as well. Same thing with the Stugs. So not a lot of movement on the table. Shooting Nebelwerfers, they fired down here and they were able to dig out the Maxim machine gun and pin the unit. Over here, they fired 6 shots from the Panzer IVs into the 122s. They were able to pop one of them. The Stugs also fired down, but they bounced all their shots. Over here, they one IC opened up 4 machine gun shots on the infantry there, but 3 hit. We were able to make all of our saves. Assaults, 1 Panzer tried to assault into that unit that he shot at with the machine guns, and we had 1 shot from our 45 millimeter. We were able to bail him out, so we stood our ground there. And then, but like I said, we're still defending the objective. They're still contesting the objective. Over here, Stokes stayed still. They didn't assault anybody, and same thing over there. The boss man didn't do anything. So we're gonna come back to the bottom of turn 5 for the Soviets. We got to pull a unit off. We got to pull off an objective. So we'll see how it goes. We are back for a relatively quick and uneventful turn 5 for the Soviets. We had to pull off 1 unit and we had to pull off an objective. So the Strelkovy company that was sitting right here and the objective there both got peeled off. In the shooting phase and movement phase, I guess over here, obviously we can't shoot anything to do any damage to that Panzer IV. So in light of that, we just ended up digging in and going to ground. Well, not going to ground this turn because we moved to dig in. Shooting up here, the 122s, they were just fabulous. Again, they fired 2 shots into the Stugs, and we missed on everything, even with the rerolls. So they got some bad news coming their way. There's going to be just a boatload of shots going to those guys. Maybe they'll survive. I highly doubt it. But this is going to take us to the top of turn 6. But Vin, before we get to the top of turn 6, you got your company command roll. 4 platoons are out. So he only has 3 left on the table. There you go. Make the magic happen. It's a 5. We will continue another turn. So we'll be back for the top of turn 6 for the Germans. So we are back here for bottom of Soviets turn 6, and there's less and less people on the table right now. We peeled off the infantry squad over here in hopes that the one ISU 122 was going to jump back in the tank. He didn't, so we were able to just fire our 1 shot off on a 5-up prayer, and we missed. So that objective's going to come off the table, and then Vin comes back on his turn. I guess just roll it now, man. You got another command test.
Yeah.
Another command test, and I'll have to do mine for the next turn. So here it is to see if the game continues. 3. Vin?
3, it's over.
Are you shitting me? Wow, that's... Soviets win. It's pretty empty feeling right now. It doesn't feel like much of a victory. But we'll be back in a second for the endgame recap. So just hang on. So we're back for the endgame recap. Overall, pretty good game. It's a little rough. Like I said, we were playing with 4 platoons on the defense. I mean, you're just peeling guys off, and with just that many platoons, I mean, you're taking off huge chunks of your list, starting off pretty early in the game makes it kind of tough to defend. Overall, I think what I was thinking was stringing out those Strelkovies was just to form a little bubble around the objective. So even if I got assaulted and pushed back, I'd still be contesting for at least like 1 or 2 turns if I just kept losing combat to the tanks, which kind of worked out pretty well. But, we took some heavy losses because of it, but ultimately ended up paying out. Keeping the ISU 122s in reserve as long as I did, I kind of had to, because I had to either gauge it for how well those panzers were going to make a push on this flank, or if, Vin was going to get over aggressive with the king on this side, I was going to pop him up maybe somewhere back over there to get some shots. But, he ended up waiting a couple turns, and I couldn't really wait any longer. So I just popped him in the middle, try to take out those Stugs and just hold that side of the table. But, overall, those ISU 122s, they really didn't do that much. I mean, you blow up one you blow up one Stug and then bail another one out twice. I mean, what, 3 rounds of shooting or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, overall they were pretty bad. I think as far as the MVP for my list, it would have to be one of the Strelkovy companies. They both did really well, actually, just kind of hanging in there as long as they did. Katyushas are pretty worthless, but I put them in that back corner, just trying to hope to take a little bit of fire, take a little bit of heat off that Strelkovy company on the side over there. They did take some shots, but they really didn't do anything as far as pinning anybody or doing any damage on the table. As far as like looking down what the Germans had on the list, I mean on the table, that king was kind of scary on that side, but having that ambush, it kind of made me feel a little bit better about the situation. And when Vin didn't push up super aggressive in the beginning, it kind of made things a little bit easier as far as my defensive plan went. But him also losing both of those infantry platoons on both sides of the table kind of took the pressure off a little bit and just put the focus on the tanks. I don't know, Vin, what do you think? How your overall plan ended up going? Like I said, I think even though I came away with the win, I don't think it really felt like a win. Plus, I think we started pulling off units a turn early anyway. So,
I would say it was definitely up in the air. If we would have been pulling them right, because you would have still had the Strelkovy list that was on this side most likely.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure those Panzers just took that side eventually.
There was no. Yeah, I couldn't get a bail on those Panzers to save my life. Yeah, they rolled up that entire flank. That was just ugly. That's why I was like looking. I was like, that objective had to be the first to go, then the middle, because there was no way on God's green earth that I was going to be able to take out those 4 Panzers the way that I was rolling and the way you were rolling. It was bad news on that side. But I know you liked how you went through the attack and everything like that. You think it panned out pretty well according to plan?
The Panzer side of it definitely worked out, because like I told you, coming around that far corner.
Oh yeah. Shooting up here and then swinging down.
And swinging across and kind of sandwiching everybody in. Over here did not work at all.
Yeah, the flamer.
Yeah.
The flamer definitely stunted that assault on that side.
And just for the record, the reason I had started the Tiger here, and I was going to have him go up the road with the Stugs, but I thought you would actually bring your IS-2s over here.
Oh, so the ISUs over there?
Yeah, so that's why I split them up. So, and then once you didn't take them out, I just figured keep the king there as a distraction, because I thought your flamethrower was over here.
Yeah, that was a pretty big mistake that worked out in my favor. Yeah. I saw when you moved the king up, I was just sitting there, I was staring that down. I was like, man, I can't believe he just put him right there.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I need lucky dice to get it off, but just to have the opportunity was enough to take the risk. But it is overall pretty fun game. I kind of like the Fighting Withdrawal mission. I think overall it's pretty good. It's usually a lot better when you don't start pulling platoons off the table a turn early, but it's getting kind of late now, so that probably had a little bit to do with it. But overall, fun game, Soviet victory. Not much of a victory, but yeah, we'll be back to do it again. Thanks everybody for watching.